Good afternoon, everybody. This is a really special day for us at the college. It is a great honor for me to have one of our preeminent Caribbean leaders, who sometimes I take the liberty to call my friend, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Claudius Mitchell. And I would just like to give you a brief on who Dr. Mitchell is. He's a true son of the soil of Grenada, Grenada, CARICOM, and Petit Martinique. He was born to Mitchell in the village of Brizan. Dr. Mitchell received his primary school education in Grenada at the Happy Hill RC School. And then he went on to the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, where he read for a Bachelor of Science degree in Mathematics and Chemistry. And he followed that with a master's degree from Howard University and a doctorate in Mathematics and Statistics from American University. Dr. Mitchell is himself an educator. He taught first at Presentation Brothers College, and he was also a professor of mathematics at Howard University, where he also did consulting and provided services to many government departments and private corporations in the United States. Dr. Mitchell was first elected a member of Parliament for St. George Northwest and has held that seat in each subsequent election since then, and he's been political leader of the new National Party since 1989. In 1995, he was elected for the first time as Prime Minister, winning 8 of the 7 seats in the House of Representatives. Dr. Mitchell has experienced election victories in 99, 2003, 2013, and most recently in 2018, including an unprecedented sweep of polls on 3 occasions. Dr. Mitchell is also Minister of Finance, National Security, Public Administration, Home Affairs, and Information Communication Technology. In last December, he celebrated his 35th anniversary as an elected parliamentarian. In addition to his domestic responsibilities, Dr. Mitchell, as I said, is a true Caribbean man. He served in various capacities at the regional and international level, including chairman of CARICOM, chairman of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank, chairman of the Ministerial Council of the Association of Caribbean States, chairman of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, chairman of the World Bank Small States Forum. He's presently the president of the SIDS DOC, serving an extended term by special request. He's also chairman of the Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union and the lead head of government for science and technology in the CARICOM quasi-cabinet. Dr. Mitchell is also one of the co-commissioners of the Global Commission for Adaptation. Aside from that, he's been a long-serving parliamentarian. He's an avid sportsman, but he made his mark in cricket, serving as the captain of the Grenada cricket team. And if you want to find Dr. Mitchell at 4:30 in the morning, check him at the gym. So, Honorable PM, as I said, this is really a pleasure for me, and I turn the floor over to you to share your perspectives on digitization.
Similarly, it's a pleasure, my brother, and of course, and friend, and of course, to all my brothers and sisters that are listening. And formally, let me say that as director of Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, the faculty, staff, and students of Cipriani College, my dear sisters and brothers across the Caribbean region who are listening to us at this time, other participants beyond the Caribbean, pleasant good afternoon to all of you. First of all, let me thank my brother, Dr. Henry, and the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies for the kind invitation to speak on the challenges posed by COVID-19 for the Caribbean and the adaptation required. In the context of the rapid rate in digitization, I must commend the organizers for adapting the new norm and providing a series of virtual engagement opportunities. It is humbling to see the level of participation in today's webinar, and I look forward to the period of engagement after my presentation. Certainly, COVID-19 pandemic has upended the life as we knew it, bringing unforeseen challenges and causing unimaginable economic and social impact. For tourism-dependent countries like Grenada and those in the Caribbean as a whole, we have witnessed the virtual collapse of the tourism industry as countries close their borders in an attempt to curb the spread of this dreaded disease. The almost instantaneous decline in economic activity essentially means that countries are now faced with massive economic contraction and fiscal imbalances, deteriorating terms of trade, and increasing national debt that can become unsustainable. My dear sisters and brothers, in short, we are facing a potential crisis in the financial system, as we know it. A predicament with rising unemployment and a looming calamity in the social sector. Our supply chains have been significantly disrupted, and the regionalism we have fought to develop certainly is at risk. The list detailing the impact of this pandemic goes on and on, but suffice to say, my dear friends, we are certainly in unprecedented times. And as such, there needs to be an unprecedented, strategic, immediate, and forward-looking responses, which will ideally be geared towards building a greater resilience in our respective countries and the region as a whole. As countries emerge from the lockdown and the regional borders begin to reopen, we begin the odious task of rebuilding battered economies. Many countries, Grenada included, have established various committees to provide strategic guidance to governments. A multi-sectoral approach has always been the best path towards that development, and this approach takes on even greater significance now as we chart the way forward in the COVID-19 era. Our future path must be data-driven, and that data, information, and knowledge constitute the bedrock for efficient, effective, innovative, and practical responses that are essential for proposed and implemented solutions. This data-driven pathway forms the nucleus of the digital transformation that must take center stage in the individual and collective development agenda of Caribbean countries. In fact, according to the World Economic Forum, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which is highlighted by the impact of digitization, with emerging technologies changing our lives in unprecedented ways. My brothers and sisters all, a digitized economy A digitized Caribbean is the way to the future. It's a critical pathway for addressing the growing demands and appropriately increasing the technological sophistication that is necessary for citizens in this time. There is no denying the relevance of fundamental digital transformation to enhancing the survivability of the regional countries in the new COVID-19 landscape is absolutely essential. Up till 5 months ago, we were hard pressed to see paper transactions and face-to-face meetings as anything but mandatory. Today, thanks to the pandemic, in a strange way, these are rapidly becoming relics of the pre-COVID life. In the new dispensation, we meet virtually as we are doing now and achieving the same results, and we work from home and are equally, maybe in some instances, even more productive and in our view, less costly. The takeaway here is that in every crisis, it is always said there are opportunities, and the pandemic has presented the opportunity to reset the development agenda. We are at that critical juncture where we can re-engineer government systems and processes through technology-enabled application and services. It is clear to all of us that government as a service provider must reevaluate the services, and in keeping with the digital lexicon, we must commit to a reset or reboot. This will allow for digital inclusion and must go hand in hand with the adaptation of available technology on a wider scale. The underlying infrastructure that will facilitate or enable this digital transformation is affordable, and robust internet services are certainly required. The existing private sector and budding entrepreneurs must also take advantage of the available technologies and adjust their business models and business continuity plans to assist with re-emerging regional economies. Our students too must be able to study and gain certification through online applications, and the education system must be designed to produce high quality outputs with digital skills and acumen and a penchant for innovation and creativity. In making the education system more STEM oriented, that is focused more on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we begin to foster the innovative and enterprising capacity of students, preparing them to lead in this new technological driven environment. In this regard, therefore, I challenge our brothers and sisters in Cipriani College to reevaluate its programming, intensify its offerings, get in this direction, and employ the tools and platforms to help the digital transformation that we speak about. Similarly, the challenge exists for governments throughout the entire region to enable public offerings where, for example, digital banking and digital currencies will transform the banking, finance, and payment landscapes, where economic diversification, job creation, enhanced labor productivity, innovation, and e-commerce through digital technologies will become second nature, where regionalism, single market and economy, and CARICOM single ITC space remain not merely just lofty ideas, but must become attainable objectives. Earlier, I referenced the importance of a multi-sectoral approach. Here I note that the challenges is also about for our social partners or trade unions or non-governmental organizations, private sector organizations, churches, and faith-based organizations or schools, our colleges and universities, and our other centers of learning, or regional organizations to conscientiously work towards to promote innovation and to establish an institutional infrastructure to facilitate that digital transformation. We cannot dispute that COVID-19 has created new sociological, political, and socio-economic environments that must be bolstered by our awareness of this new norm to act. And as we witness the various manifestations of the breakdown of the norms, the weakening of entrenched institutions, the examples of citizen dissent, the makeup of fragmentation, the breaches of cybersecurity and privacy, we must embrace digital transformation as a useful tool to address these social ills and concerns. My dear sisters and brothers, just over a year ago, I had the opportunity to participate in the Caribbean Futurescape, a simulation developed by the Caribbean Telecommunication Union to demonstrate the use of ICT to accelerate social and economic development. That simulation enabled participants to understand the game-changing transformation that life in the region could undergo if available cutting-edge technology was properly applied. The speed, efficiency, and resilience of a fully integrated digital Caribbean demonstrated in that simulation, represent the epitome of regional collaboration. I dare say, COVID-19 has illustrated that we must begin marching more assertively towards that future of a single ICT space, a goal that has been in the pipeline since 2014. The achievement of this obviously requires a significant commitment on the part of all Caribbean governments, not only to the regional objective, but it must begin with a digital transformation on the national levels. Countries must be ready to enhance their capacity to maximize the potential benefits of this ICT revolution that will power the next phase of our development. At the same time, however, we must move away from the traditional silo approach to one of greater collaboration that will lead to seamless delivery of integrated public services. Sisters and brothers, governments must move to improve the rate of ICT adoption among our people to the point that it almost becomes an inevitable right. Further, we must harness the innovative capacity of our people to develop more ICT-related businesses and create opportunities for growth. Here in Grenada, we have rolled out an ambitious digital transformation agenda to build a smarter, more resilient government. We need therefore to make doing business with government simple, fast, and convenient to our people. To facilitate this, broadband connectivity has been established island-wide, and we have developed a master governance portal that provide a single entry point to access government and its services. Our flagship project, Digital Governance for Resilience, will put in place the foundational integrated digital infrastructure, payments, and identity that will enable government to operate in a digital by default modality. That infrastructure will allow government to leverage technologies to support end-to-end service integration to achieve our goal of delivering an agile, citizen-centric services, and at the same time, create more efficient organizations and build a more resilient and responsive government. This is just a snapshot, my friends, of what one country, my country, is doing. But it is important for us all to keep advancing our digital transformation agenda if we're to have any chance of success in our new normal. We must move aggressively to adopt and utilize available technologies to further advance the developmental processes. In conclusion, therefore, it is important for me to reiterate the imperative need for us to collectively re-engineer our thinking, our approaches, and our processes, and our developmental philosophy to embrace digital transformation to create the future that all of us want. Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of the evening engagement.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. The questions have started coming in. I see the theme, transformation and adaptation. And I have a question from Dr. Valentine Smith, who asks, what economic impact do you think the development of an adoption of robotics and intelligence systems will have on work in the Caribbean community?
It will transform all aspects of our life. It will certainly make the services of government much cheaper in every respect. It will make it easier to access in every sense. It will also, if properly used, can bring people far closer together in an integrated form. And it can give us in every aspect of life, whether it's in the area of health, whether it's in the area of infrastructure, whether it's in the area of own financial activities, every single area can be enhanced in a very significant way with initiative in those areas.
I have from Baltimore, from the Johns Hopkins Medical Institute, from Dr. Shanta Purcell. And she sent you greetings, and she said she's very interested in the good governance aspect of work-life digitization. And she hopes that you will speak to that.
She has to come back home and help me. It's one of my favorite students years ago. So I'm so happy. We look forward. Now that is the way to go. I think, unfortunately, not just for Grenada, my sister, it's for the entire Caribbean. It's unfortunate that we still have not reached anywhere close where we should be at this point in time. But maybe, as it is said, sometimes things happen for a reason. I think this pandemic has certainly forced us to rethink and to do the things that we should have been doing long before the pandemic stopped. So certainly that's the area we certainly want. But we need all the human resources and support that we can get to move in that direction.
One one expects that digitization would a lot easier for us to link back and network with our human capital that is residing out of the region. I have a question, Dr. Mitchell, from Mr. Christian Mora, and he is asking whether you can touch on what you would see as some of the high-level implementation strategy factors that you think are imperative.
Well, I think, first of all, I think this the whole question about that single ICT space. I think it's something that we, unfortunately, I saw in dealing with that presentation, it struck me that since this is 2014.
Yes.
It's 2014. And it was so advanced, more advanced in the digitization process in our country, which was all the paperwork and all the things that we've been doing all the years, unfortunately. I think that's a fundamental aspect, and the training of our people in all aspects of the technology is so crucial. So I think we have to invest the resources, there. We have to have the available equipment. Well, in our case, the portal that we have developed is key, and I think all countries have to move in that direction. So I think the investment is going to be key. The question of the technology is going to be key, at the question of training. These are all going to be fundamental factors if we are going to build on the whole process of digitization, which is so crucial for where we are at this particular time.
PM, I have a question from Mr. Imo Bakari, and he comes to the issue of the tourism-dominated economies in the Caribbean. And he wants to know whether you think it is possible through the creation of tourist digitalization platforms to financially counterbalance the economic fallout arising from drastically reduced tourist arrivals.
Well, it's clear. We all are riding a wave of success in our tourism activities. Yes, we are doing well. I'm sitting here today never expecting that our economy would have been hit so hard by one single event, and I think that is happening right around the world. But in the case of the Caribbean, it has played havoc. I think we don't realize that the process of the technological advances, if appropriately utilized, with the kind of skills and I would say innovation of our young people, if we are able to develop and invest more in technology, there's so much areas of opportunities outside of direct tourism activity that can in fact empower young people, give them employment that can make up the very independent citizens, and to create far more wealth than a particular aspect of the tourism product. We'll always have the serious opportunities in tourism, but the impact of one activity affecting such a major area of economic activity and livelihood of the people will not be so devastating if we had the diversity in the technological opportunities that are available from so many different areas of services that we can involve ourselves in.
I have a question, PM, from Dr. Valentine Smith. And Dr. Smith asks, in a digital world economy with COVID-19 as a factor, and this economy is dominated by the developed countries' culture, science, research, manufacturing, production, and distribution, imperative of goods and services. What do you see as some of the positives for economic survival in the Caribbean community?
Well, there are so many areas, and it goes right back Andre, to the whole question of that single ICT space. It goes right back there. So many areas of opportunities for people if we are able to invest and get our service providers to be able to provide those the technology, the services, the connectivity much cheaper than we have at this point in time. And in all the areas of opportunity will in fact be enhanced, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's in the whole question of the culture and arts, all areas of opportunity will be broadened and expanded. Because one thing I recognize, Andre, that all young people are far more advanced than we think they are, and far more ready for this revolution that is right in front of us that we have not hit. Every single area of opportunity will in fact be enhanced and broadened with significant opportunities for all our people throughout the length and breadth of the Caribbean. But again, the more we unite our economies, the more we are prepared to work closer together. And I'm not sure yet we have reached that stage because sometimes we take significant decisions at the regional level. And when we get back into our environment, then we go back to this silos, which creates enormous problem for us and reduces the capacity of our people to gain opportunities in all these areas that I just mentioned.
PM, it seems as though you anticipated the question from Mr. George Bob, because Mr. Bob comments that some people say, thanks to the feelings of our Caribbean leaders, the Caribbean has failed to become an effective economic unit necessary for viable digitization. And he asks for your comments. But I won't put you on the spot on that one. But Mr. Nigel,
I think you know my views on that.
Yeah, Mr. Nigel Bagwatsaran sends you his greetings, and he asks, do you think that there has been a productivity paradox in the Caribbean, where the benefits of ICTs have been lagging despite high upfront costs that have been borne by governments and businesses? In other words, what has been the uptake, and what would be some of the reasons if there is such a lag?
Repeat it. I didn't get repeat the question again.
All right. So he said,
we have been a communication thing, and hearing part of what you're asking, and I'm missing some words.
Okay, sorry, sir. He said, do you think
Yes.
that there has been a productivity paradox in the Caribbean? A productivity paradox.
Oh, okay, yes.
In that governments in the Caribbean and some businesses have made very high upfront investments in ICT, but yet still we see productivity lagging, as if there is a delay in the uptake of the benefits of those investments.
I think it has a lot to do. While some of us have made the investment that we should, and I don't think we all have done it collectively, I think buying to the society, getting the people on board to potential opportunity has been a factor. And remember, if we do not change that public service that we have, the mindset of into a 21st century atmosphere, I think that is a fundamental issue. You can have all the technology, you can have all the investment, and I've seen it. But if you do not have buying and the leadership, and I'm not blaming the public service by itself, because we have to accept responsibility as leaders for not having got the people involved a lot more and understanding the importance of this. But I think that has a lot to do with the lack of education, the lack of leadership in the process, throughout the public service, the private sector. And don't forget, our trade union brothers and sisters have an important role to play. Sometimes decisions that you take that can yield more efficiency, but not necessarily more employment opportunity in the traditional area. So you have to have the trade union, the buy-in of the trade unions, and of course the stakeholders at all levels in the society. So I think education has to be a fundamental factor. So investment, yes, and many of us have done it, but I think we have to buy in at the public service level, because if it doesn't, if it's not led by the public service, the country also will have serious deficiency at all levels.
Thank you, PM. The questions are coming fast and furious. The 2019 2020 Cybersecurity Jobs Report said that in the next couple years will be $3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs. How can we prepare our people to take advantage of these opportunities?
I think, you know, here again, I think the regional approach and great, because we have different levels of skills at the Caribbean level. The whole understanding of cybersecurity and its related areas, and not something I think of people as, as a whole, in a general sense, understand. But as I go around the Caribbean and I meet with some of our bright minds, they understand this area so well. They understand the benefits of the technology, but they also understand some of the areas of concerns. So I think at the regional level, we must invest more, we must share more of our talent and resources at the regional level. And I think it's an area that, as you just said, has tremendous opportunities. But the question is, how do we do it? Not just allowing each country to work on its own and trying to buy into that important area of opportunity and not having the resources to do so. So I think the regional approach has to be the fundamental part. We need to go forward.
PM, Mr. Michael Anizet, who is the General Secretary of the Caribbean Congress of Labour and a member of the Board of Governors of my institution, and whom you met in February and March. I think he is going a little retro now, and he wants to know what will be required to have a true regional air and sea transport system, given the need for intra-Caribbean connectivity, intra-regional connectivity.
Well, it goes right back to our commitment to the regionalism. It goes right back to that. I mean, we see what's happening with the layout issue now. It's a clear example that we are not yet clearly on the same board. There is no way we will be able to effect the best policy and the most effective policy for regional transport and the freedom of movement of our people if we do not accept the fact that the decision made today will not necessarily, all aspects of it, affect every country and every aspect positively. We all have to bear some consequences, and we have to be clear that where we're heading. Today, I might not benefit, Grenada might not benefit in this area, but 5 years from now, the Grenadian students and people will benefit. But I have not yet seen, Andrea, unfortunately, too many times we see what is necessary, we see the decision that we must make. We meet at levels and we all agree, and then we go back on our own and do the complete opposite in silos, which would never work. And I think that's a fundamental problem. I give a simple example of the whole question, present situation there, that we have the other airlines. Why can't we bring those parties together? All people are not traveling to individual countries. We're not. They have a very small level of transport activities between these islands. If there is enough cooperation and governments have to play a major role, I think we will see a lot more of this and the countries will benefit in very serious ways. Another point I want to make on this, look at the cost of transport, as you know. Just look at the cost of the transport from going from one country to the next. I remember begging my colleagues over the years, I could afford to talk about this because they know I've spoken about it publicly. Let us reduce the cost of taxis and tickets. But if I reduce my own in Grenada, all I have to do is lose revenue. If the taxes in the other countries, because if you buy a ticket from one country to the next, it's a combined cost that counts. And people are not willing to make that sacrifice, and I couldn't understand it because they said, look, if we reduce the taxes, we would not get the same amount of money on one ticket. But there'll be a lot more travels. If we combine our efforts in reduction of the fees at the airports and also the tickets directly, I think you will see a lot more. We're not asking you to do it at the international level. We're asking the regional levels to increase the transport and connectivity between all people. I honestly believe but you know something, COVID-19 is the first time I've been to a meeting where almost every leader said we have to reduce the taxes. So COVID-19 in some ways has brought some reason to us that we probably would not have before. So it is said that in every time there are some major problems, some have to look at the opportunity that it creates. Yes. I believe two things so far. The question of the impact on regional transport might be an important factor. And I also believe the use of the technology, the digitization necessity that I think this has brought to show us we can still connect ourselves and still do business if we do have this more investment in the digitization process, which is so necessary for the region.
I have a question from Mr. Atkins Vidal, who is actually the coordinator of the Elma Francois Institute, which has organized this, the Elma Francois Institute of the college, which has organized this activity. And Atkins wants to know, what are two concrete things that regional governments must do so that we do not revert to the pre-COVID habits of fear of technology?
Well, let me say, I think maybe the first thing is a commitment, one, to recognize the absolute importance of the technology and a role that it can play in investments and opportunities for development in a general sense. I think people want to see the impact. How is that going to affect us positively? I think also the necessity to invest heavily, a commitment for each of us to make a commitment to invest in that the resources necessary to take advantage of that opportunity that it provides. I think I would say these are the two most probably important things. And I honestly want to go back to one thing, Andre, the question of that single ICT space, the commitment to this, and the necessity to put the resources necessary. I remember we started to talk about this, and we're looking at international support, but it wasn't coming. My feeling, we can't wait. We all have to make the sacrifice. So I would say that's another major factor. We must put the resources out, because in the long run, I think the benefits and the result of what we can bring to our economies and our people far outweigh the investment that we put.
I have a follow-up. Ms. Denise Deming says she's very happy to hear your passion, and she wants to know what non-financial interventions or help do you think is needed to make this collaborative approach that you talk about, this collaborative, I guess, creation of ICT space. And I know from my own interaction with you, your commitment to social dialogue and partnership, as you mentioned. But Ms. Diamond would like to know what are some of the things that you believe, what are some of the contributions, non-financial, I guess?
Well, we have various regional bodies that operate that in some ways have played major role in the whole question of the technology, whether it's the CTU and other regional institutions. I think we have to have them working more collaboratively. I think that is the first thing we must do. I think also our stakeholders, Andre, at all levels, all stakeholders working closer together on a commitment, each of us. So the private sector has a major role in the region. The trade union movement, and I really want to appeal to our trade union brothers and sisters. They have to be on board in this whole atmosphere, the whole innovation that we are talking about. I've seen the involvement of our church leadership, even in this period when we asked them to cooperate and with respect to protocols, we've seen their commitment to the process. So I believe that the mindset of collaboration has to be a fundamental factor, both internally within our individual countries and uniting the different organizations in the region that play a major role in some of the initiatives in the innovation areas that we're talking about. Like you said, it doesn't require resources, it requires mindset, and I think that is key.
Yes. Yeah, we have a question on your government's position and what you have done, because as a result of COVID-19, we have had the need for remote work.
Yes.
And just as an exchange of views, what are some of the things that you have done to facilitate remote work?
Well, we have held even our cabinet meetings. We have kept our cabinet meetings as normal. The only difference is that we're not in the same room. So we certainly at the cabinet level have set that tone. We have certainly, even under lockdown period, we have made sure some of our critical workers have the available equipment to be able to work. So many of our important institutions that function effectively during that particular period. And of course, we've had, I have had meetings with our social partners on the virtually, so regularly, keeping in touch with people and being able to make significant decisions that continue to make government function in a general sense. So we've done this, and of course, as you know, we have established a COVID secretariat that is providing serious stimulus support to all sectors of the society that are marginalized in this time. We have had the Ministry of Health leading a subcommittee of cabinet, which meets literally regularly, some key members, which include not just government persons, but private sector people and persons in the area of health and different sectors that have, in fact, stayed on top of what is taking place for the COVID period. In fact, they are still very much involved as we prepare ourselves for the border opening. So we have made some significant strides in those areas because of the decision that we've made in a general sense. And I must say, Andrew, we have established task force for different sectors, for tourism, for education, for health. And I've been pleasantly surprised with the level of commitment and participation at all levels. Many of these committees, we have people who are busy doing their own things, who have their own problems, but they have not missed a single meeting. And we gave them a timeline to complete their work, each of the task force. And each of the task force committees presented a report and recommendation. So we met only a few days ago to look at the recommendations and to plan for the way forward in every sense. I'm excited
while we're going through enormous problems, but I'm really excited by the level of cooperation and interest shown by the population as a whole at all levels.
Yeah, I would, as head of a labor college, I just wanted to ask what protections have you put in to make sure that workers are not disadvantaged in a time like this?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is to ensure that our employers and government, of course, is one of the bigger ones, understand the pain that is taking place away. And we have to communicate that accordingly and reach out. The businesses also that employs a lot of persons cannot see this as a normal time. Some things that you may do or direct in the case of a workers' activity in normal times cannot be done now. And sometimes I've had to speak to some of them because some decisions that they took create problems uh, for the atmosphere of collaboration and understanding. So I think government have to set the tone with its own workers, and we've done that, as you know. We've made enormous sacrifice. People been home for 3 months and they pay every cent. Even some people have never traveled or getting travel allowances. So I think, but I also think our brothers and sisters in the trade union movement also have a role to play. And they must also send out the right message. So in times, in normal times, an action or statement you may make with respect to a particular issue, you cannot make the same statement in COVID time, or your action cannot be the same. So you may look at something that might happen, and you think of and we call a strike. I'm not sure strike is the best approach at this time. And I have to tell some of my friends that while you might be right and have the right based on the action, let's do everything else first before you reach the position of under COVID-19, a strike. I'm not sure. So I think all of us, government, must understand that in the general sense, the workers are the ones that get hurt with any bad decisions that we make. The business community must understand it's not just about profit and the problem they are facing, but also the workers that they employ. Think of them and their families. Some of them are happy making in normal times a decent salary. And then because of certain rule that you employ, you just abandon your commitment or your reason for helping workers in this difficult time. And our trade unions, as I said before, must also understand that they have a very serious role to play in understanding the pressure, the very important period that are facing all of us.
This has been an absolute delight and an honor for me. I have quite a few more questions, but I promise you, I do not wish to get in trouble with Philomena. So I am going to stick with my time, and sir, I hope that when time permits, because this has been really a lively and a good and insightful exchange, I hope that when time permits, we would be able to welcome you in person at our college.
Yes.
So if you have anything else that you would like to tell us, we can wrap up.
Andrea, I think the college, as you know, with its program and its mandate has an important role to play. And I believe that maybe the college should spread its wings more around, not just in Trinidad. I think the kind of program that you implement at Cipriani College should be something that we see emulated throughout the Caribbean region, because I think we need more of this in understanding the role of labor, in understanding the role of citizenry, and the whole question of development. So I certainly look forward to be able physically to be there sometime, and I certainly hope that with the opening of borders, that we can, and hopefully with the possibility of a vaccine being found rise that among human beings, and willing to understand each other more and ready to act violently. We've seen this among young people in particular, and I'm sure that is happening around the Caribbean region. And I think the lockdown has been a tough one for everybody. So I look forward to this, and I really this has been a very illuminating session for me, and the questions were extremely important in the context of where the Caribbean is and where we are as a people and what we need to do and the use of technology. So I certainly look forward to this and look forward to seeing you again. And take care.
Yeah, thank you, PM, and you'll be happy to know that, to your point, we are working closely with the distinguished chairman of TAMCC to see how we can do some exchange of programs.
Good. That's very good music. Very good music. So you have to tell him he can't give up that job now.
I'll do that. God bless you, PM. Thanks much.